So we are back on Bootlegged, episode 6. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have the very funny Tim Gaither, longtime friend, even longer time comedian, because I met you a few years into your comedy career. But how you doing, man? You locked down in Southern California right now?
Yeah, I'm at my house with my wife and my baby boy, and he's going through this thing I was telling you about called the leap, where his like brain is developing. Basically, they go through these periods where they can last from like a week to up to 5 weeks, and we're in the middle of a 5 week leap. It's basically like his brain is programming. So so it makes him super moody. Like he can be super happy, and then all of a sudden he's freaking out. And like if I go to the kitchen for anything, he's just like, it's like he thinks I'm abandoning him or something, And I'm like, I'm right here, buddy. you know. But he's 17 months old, so he's like, fuck that. I need you down here now. Like
You're like, you can still see me.
yeah.
Relax.
Like I'm not working. I got
Now,
my pajama pants on. I haven't taken them off in 3 weeks. Come on, dude.
Now, since this is such an influential, formative stage, have you thought about just really surrounding him with wrestling at these 5 weeks and just sinking that in deep
Uh,
down? Viewer at home, Tim is a state champion wrestler back in his high school days. So wrestling and college wrestler as well. So.
yeah, those days are getting farther and farther away.
Yeah. Dude, you still run a nice you're like one of those guys that can knock out a 5 mile jog back when we could leave the house, but you're still in shape. Don't sell yourself short is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't run near as much as I used to, but I used to like it, but I'm falling apart, and I got to find other ways to, stay in shape, I guess.
Now, when you travel on the road, was that at any point a priority for you? It's like, okay, on Saturday mornings I get up and I jog, or Sunday mornings, like after was that ever a part of your comedy touring routine?
Yeah, when I'm on the road, almost every day I'll run at least on a treadmill and do some stuff. When you're in a hotel for 12 hours, I mean, if you can't find 30 minutes to do something physical, you're just being a lazy bastard, pretty much.
Yeah, you do feel kind of like a lazy piece of shit at that point. When you're like, all right, I've watched the same Sports Center 5 times. Time for the show.
So now, I've got this 4 mile run that I'll do once every 6 weeks just to make sure I can still do it. As far as on the street, but it kind of I mainly just run in hotels on a treadmill. So
Okay.
yeah,
No,
do it.
no.
I understood when I was in really good running shape. I understood the allure of how people got addicted to it, because once you get to where you can run a long way without it being a big deal, like when you can just run 5 miles without it phasing you really, it's like having a goddamn superpower. You're just like, yeah, I can. It's a good feeling to be able to do it, and now I can still do it, but it's not pleasurable. It's like I'm fucking dying every step of the way.
You're pushing that last mile is like a real, all right, I know I can
The
finish
first
this.
mile
And
is
then
the hardest. The last three, I'm kind of warmed up, but getting me warmed up, it takes a minute.
get firing up the old motor. Well, now, viewer at home, Tim, if you haven't seen him, tours pretty much everywhere. Are you one of those guys that have performed in 49 out of the 50 states in America? Have you?
Yeah,
I've been asking this to guests that are performers, like how many states? I just to kind of paint the idea of the travel, some of the places you've
I
been.
think I've been to 45. I think I've worked in 45 states, and Korea and Canada and Ireland. I did some shows in Ireland, so to 3 countries and 45 states, and done stand up, so quite a bit.
Okay.
Really cool because
Now,
in America, people will be like, "Oh, that was a great set," and in Ireland, they say they go, "Oh, that was brilliant," And when someone says you're brilliant, it just sounds better than great,
you really made me laugh versus that was
Yeah,
brilliant. Plus in the Irish accent
oh, that was
and
brilliant. That was great.
kind
Brilliant.
it kind of sounds prestigious. Uh, Now, if I were to ask you in all the thousands of shows you've done in your lifetime, is there one single worst show that sticks out? That's immediately the number pops into your head immediately when I ask that.
Um, No, which tells you how many shitty shows I've had.
Because they can be real shitty for many different variety of
Yeah,
reasons.
usually it's the most recent one. You know, like I had one not too awful long ago that I was like, that was easily the top five, and I've probably said that 25, 30 times. So, um, no, I wish you would have asked me before the show. I would have thought about it because I've done some that were just fucking terrible. Probably maybe the worst one I did, the most humiliating one was I hadn't been doing it super long, and these people were paying me $300 to go do this private party, and I was like, shit, I'll do anything for 30 minutes for $300. At that point in my career, and I show up, and it was like no one knew I was supposed to be there. They were just like, they like pointed to like their karaoke machine, and they're like, I get
Right.
over there. So I go over there, and I'm like telling jokes, but it's just stupid. I mean, like it's a party. People aren't even looking at me. There's like four people maybe paying attention, and the rest of the crowd, and even those four people eventually just kind of turned around like, fuck this guy. And I finally just sat the microphone on the top of the stereo, and I just walked the fuck out. I mean, they'd already given me my check, and it was just it was like humiliating. I'm like, what am I doing right now? And I think that's where the dream started. Every now and again, I have a dream where I'm doing stand-up, and it's going okay at first, and then everybody just starts talking and not paying attention at all, and I'm just standing there like a dumbass. And in the dream, I always just kind of back out, and there's a curtain, and I just back into the curtain, and it kind of swallows me up, and
You can
you know,
just slither out.
yeah, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Man. Now, viewers, Tim got his start in and around the Kansas City area, as did I. At I first saw Tim at the Stanford and Sons in Kansas City. Now, was that the first stage you ever performed on? The one down in Westport?
Westport, yeah, it was
Okay.
January 11th of 1999 was my first time on stage.
Yeah. Now, was that like a fish to water, or were you reluctant to go back the second time?
No, the first time was great. I had like 10 friends in the crowd, and I had been planning this for a long time, so I had my 3 minutes down pretty cold. So the first time was good. I didn't really eat shit until like maybe, I think it was probably my 10th time on stage. And I had the dangerous thought that, like, I know this is hard, but I think I'm a natural. Like, I don't know that I think I had the thought that I don't know that applies to me. And as soon as you have that thought, you're fucked. And I know that now. But it was my 10th time on stage. I was getting paid for the very first time. I ended up making $8 of the door. That was my cut, $8.
Nice.
And,
Very nice.
and I didn't get a laugh. I did like 10 minutes, and I didn't get a laugh until my very last joke got kind of a laugh. But other than that, I just stood there getting kicked in the balls for 10 minutes and got my $8. And I was ready to quit that night. And then this other guy came in and did really well that had been doing it for a long time. And I was like, well, you can't quit yet, So 21 years later, and I don't know. I guess I quit. I guess I got retired without,
You feel like that.
I don't know when we're going to be able to do it again.
Hopefully sooner than later. I mean, I can only imagine midsummer.
Hopefully I remember how to do this shit.
That's going to be real interesting. It's like whatever comic has that date, maybe it's early August, late July, that didn't get canceled, and now they've been sitting there for 3 months, and they have to show up and do a 5. I mean, that first night is going to be a little rusty. Maybe you're back into the groove by Saturday, but those first 2 or 3 shows you're going to be forgetting a lot of stuff, forgetting like what orders things may go in.
The first night, because you have so much adrenaline, it'll probably be good, and then after that, fuck, you'll be like, oh, that's right, I forgot how to do this.
Yeah, I could just imagine. Yeah, night 1, it's just all crowd work. You've just been bottled up, just everything you've wanted to say.
I've also, especially since my son was born, sometimes I'll take like I won't go do shit for like 3 weeks or a month sometimes, my next road date or whatever. And I'll stay home and take care of him. And so it might, it doesn't happen a lot, but every now and again I'll go 3 weeks or a month. And I tell you what, it's kind of fun, like when you come back, like hearing the jokes again, like, because it's like riding a bike. They just come out the way they're supposed to. And it's almost like you're hearing it for the first time, even though it's coming out of your head, It's,
Right.
so hopefully that'll be.
And you're kind of reassured, like, all right, that was a good joke. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I don't know how long it's going to last, but and I'm also trying to get my YouTube up and running, and I've had it running forever. I've just been very lazy about when I put stuff up and how often I do it. Like that video you showed, or you're going to show,
let's do it right now, because I want to do the drive-through. You want that's the one I wanted to play. You want to roll that one now?
Sure. It's awkward as fuck for me to sit there and while you're doing it, but I'll.
Here, all right, we'll be right back. This is anyway. Here you go.
I need a strawberry shake.
Okay.
I need that in a spicy chicken burrito and a soft taco. What up, girl?
What did you say at the last part? Because I heard you say something about a shake and then you say something else.
Except I didn't. I said I don't want no shake.
Okay, so what you want? You want lettuce, tomato, sour cream, onions?
I don't want no onions up on there neither. I'm trying to go home and get with my wife. You know what I'm saying?
So no onions?
She don't be liking them onions on my breath. Are you laughing at me, Miranda? You look crazy as hell. What you doing tonight, girl?
I'm working.
Till when?
Till 10:30.
I'm about to come back.
Okay.
And we about to hit it off up in this.
What else you want?
You got a boyfriend, Miranda?
I have a husband and 3 kids.
Except you don't. Except you don't tonight, girl. You about to get it on up in this. Miranda. I'm trying to ask you, girl. I'm trying to get with you.
325. What happened?
I'm trying to get with you, girl.
And I'm trying to take your order.
You ever get hit on up at the drive-thru?
Yes, I'm hit on all the time.
No shit, by who?
By everybody.
Except you ain't, girl. Not like you ain't never been hit on nobody with a Mercedes.
That's it for your order?
No, girl, I want to get your phone number.
I don't have a phone. My phone's disconnected.
You ain't got no phone?
No, they don't give me enough money.
Girl, we need to hook up. I'll pay your bills. Miranda. What's the matter, girl? You look all frustrated.
That's because I got a long-ass line of cars outside.
I don't see nobody back there. That fool, he ain't hearing about nothing, girl.
Thank you for waiting. How are you doing today?
Miranda.
What can I get for you?
Miranda. I got a question to ask you. Miranda. Miranda. Miranda.
Keep getting it.
Miranda. Miranda. I got something to ask you, girl. Miranda. Miranda. Why you ignoring me, girl? Miranda. Miranda. I know you ain't ignoring me, girl. Except you didn't. Except you didn't, Miranda. Girl. Except you ain't ignoring me, girl. Miranda. You take food stamps, Miranda?
No.
You don't?
No.
How about a Rite Aid coupon for some Magnums?
No, we don't take Rite Aid coupons either.
Oh, Miranda.
Cash or a credit card.
Can you just loan me the money?
All right, so where did that idea come from? Was it just, have you always just messed with drive-through people, and then one day you just pressed record?
No, I think I was with Josh Nasser when I filmed this one, and we were just. If you know Josh, he's about the most inappropriate person in the world. Like, he'll fart in elevators just to see people's reaction, and he'll shush a restaurant. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. He'll shush an entire goddamn restaurant. He'll just be sitting there and he'll just go, shh. And the whole place will get quiet for a second. It's fucking crazy. And he'll just walk past people and he'll be like, shut up. You know, he'll say shit.
Yeah,
is that guy talking to me? You know? So that's probably where it came from. Is I was with him and we were just going through drive-thrus, just filming shit and doing different voices. None of it was like planned. It's not like we had a script. I would just do different voices. And this one that you're gonna see, it really did well. Like overnight, it had like 100,000 views. And if I would have kept going with it then, instead of taking my foot off the gas, there's no telling how big it would have gotten, because this was like 7 or 8 years ago. But it's one of my most popular ones, and I've started doing it again. And they're, you know, like sketch and all that stuff. It's fun, and I think it's funny, but it's a little unnerving because you're throwing yourself out there, and you know every dickhead in the world is doing it now. So even if yours is good, I'm afraid people are like, it's just another fucking dickhead doing his thing.
Well, and then just the consistency of it too is also, you know, one of the struggles.
Right.
It's like it's got to not only be funny, but then not just a consistent content, and then consistently funny. More importantly, content. You know.
Yeah.
On top of that,
I would go on the road for a couple weeks and all that shit, and I would just not, you know, before I knew it, month, and I had anything. So, but now I got nothing but time. So.
Yeah, well, it's just like, I don't know, I've got a ton of footage from the road, but I watch comedians that put together, like, their travel blogs or whatever, and it's just, ultimately, it just comes off as kind of pretentious, like, look, here's me driving in my tour bus again, and here's me at the airport with my bag handlers, and it's just like, I'm like, what do you got, like an E-entertainment? Like, I don't need to watch this. Like, this shit's not realistic. It's not my life. But I did want to poll a viewer. This clip, Tim's one of the best with the crowds, and I found this clip recently. Deals with our Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and you know, football fans are passionate. They tend to interrupt shows. This is a great example.
You know what I'm saying, buddy? Damn, these lights are bright. I was not expecting how light these fucking brights are. I can't even see your goddamn face right now. Well, there's a dude over there somewhere, but you're not a Chiefs fan? No. Who are you a fan of?
Packers.
Falcons. You like the Falcons? Yeah, they suck, though, don't they? Good for you, though, for not giving a shit. I grew up in Kansas City, so I saw the...
Hell yeah.
I'm in California now, which isn't very great.
It's all right.
But, I'll do the jokes, butthole, all right? In fact, I'm not bragging about this shit. Kansas City, you guys are a nice looking couple. You married, Falcon lover? Not married. How long have you been together?
This is our 4th date.
4th date. All right. Are you a Chiefs fan? No. All right. Take it easy. Jesus Christ, she doesn't have to be a fucking Chiefs fan. Yes, she does. I'll kill that bitch in the parking lot. I'll cut her damn throat. No judge or convict me neither. That's bullshit. Chiefs are my team. 200 miles from here. They're my team.
Blue Room in Springfield, which is a great club. Break that down. Like Was that? Do you remember if it was specifically? Was that at the end of the show or more towards the beginning?
It was in the beginning. It was the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl. They hadn't played yet, and
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I was asking people in the crowd if they were Chiefs fans, and there was one that wasn't, and so I fucked with them a little bit. And then there was a guy from the side that like was getting all fired up about it, you know, like
Falcons
if they
guy.
weren't Chiefs fans kind of thing. So I just kind of ran with it, and I've been going through all my, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've got shit from way back in the day, like crowd work, and like hours of it. So I've been going, it's kind of tedious, but I've been going through all these old sets and finding just nuggets of crowd work and editing it out, and I'm going to release those on my YouTube also. Because that's the main thing I want to get known for is my stand-up. And I never wanted to get famous, but now with the way shit is, you almost have to try and make yourself famous or, you know, at least get a following. That's my dream. I just want fans now. I'm to the point in my career where it's always going to be difficult and all that, but I'm to the point where I want people to come see me, you know, like
Yeah.
specifically me, not just to come to the comedy show, because it's just, I don't know, I'm just ready for that, you know.
Yeah, well, and viewers, if you haven't seen Tim, he's got a real certain way of just kind of captivating the crowd, bringing you. It's a real comfortable. It's like you're never really aggressive unless it's called for, you know, if there's some dick in the audience or something like that. But just consistently funny, and one of those comedians that you do want to see every 10 months or 13 months when they come, you know, back around. And there's very few comedians that kind of, there's a lot of people that are funny, but that just kind of have that capability. One, you know, the crowd work, mix it in, like with, you're good about just bringing up new experiences, you know, working in, you know, new bits, new material consistently. Which, you know,
it's hard, man. It's hard finding jokes all the time and all that shit. But, you know, and sometimes you'll have you think is fucking hilarious, but no one else does.
That's half my bits that are my favorite that do really well started off as my wife's least favorite bit, and then I worked on it harder just to spite her sense of humor.
Yeah.
And then just slowly knead that into a gym eventually.
Right.
So I give my wife a lot of credit. Me trying to spite her, you know, it helps my comedy out considerably. I did want to bring up your podcast because I recently went back in the archives, and listeners, Tim's got a great show on. You can find it on Stitcher, SoundCloud. I'm assuming iTunes, wherever you find podcasts. Also timgaither.com, and then below I put the YouTube link right below the video, so click on that, subscribe, all that stuff right below there. But the podcast, I went back through one episode, I believe it was 92. You had Pastor Ted on, who I met briefly at your wedding, but great guy, and just an incredible episode in that Pastor Ted, the guest, was terminally ill and was facing, you know, certain, you know, outcomes from that, and with all that on his shoulders, you know, just sat down with Tim and just, you know, really, you guys had a great conversation. I really liked what you guys talked about, but was that hard to ask him to be a guest, you know, under those circumstances?
Well, he was literally on his deathbed. I mean, I think we recorded it maybe 9 days before he died.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of emotional. You know, he was you know, he was a pastor and he was 80 years old, but he never, you know, he didn't, you know, like, I don't want to get all in the Bible or anything, but he's the one that pointed out to me that there's no mention of hell in the Old Testament of the Bible, which is proof, basically, that somebody put it in the New Testament to scare the shit out of people, you know, to keep them in line. And you know, so he was one of a kind. So yeah, the website is actually timgaithercomedy.com.
Sorry, yes, Tim Gaither Comedy.
Yeah, timgaithercomedy.com. But yeah, the podcast is on there, and I've started it up again. And I've been rotating. I've been having 1 week I'll have like a high-level wrestler or a coach, and the next week will be a comedian. So just on Monday I recorded one with John Caponera and one with Wes Roper, who was the head coach at Missouri for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And they were both two of the best guests I've ever had. I mean, back to back. So those are good. So, yeah, I would appreciate if you guys would check that out.
Well, I mean, not to make this like all about just your morbid guess, but I went back with the J.Scott Homan.
Yeah.
And listened to that. I didn't know him personally, and viewers, actually, you tell people watching about him, because I really didn't know anything about him, unfortunately, until he passed away.
Yeah, he's another friend that passed away of cancer, which, fuck cancer, man. Jesus.
I know.
So many people are affected by it. It's just awful. But J.Scott Homan was probably the funniest guy you've never heard of, which there's a lot of those guys in this country. I was telling somebody the other day, being famous usually isn't because you're the best. It's because somebody found you and you were marketable. They could sell you. It ain't got shit to do with who the funniest is, because there are hundreds of people in this country, men and women, that you will never hear of because they probably suck at the business side or whatever. Comedy's not fair. But he was one of those guys. He was just fucking hilarious. He's the only guy that I've ever made my mother listen to his CD. I've been doing comedy for 21 years, around a lot of good comics, and he's the only one I was like, Mom, you got to listen to this. And we sat there and laughed our ass off at him. And he was just a great person, really kind person. Will also get you nowhere in comedy.
Yes.
But yeah,
for
he
sure.
was in Hollywood a few months back, or gosh, I guess it's been like 18 months now. And he came in with a friend, and they had this trip that they would do like once every couple years, where they'd come in and they would have dinner at that, I can't think of the name of it now. It's like a white glove place.
Yeah, it was like a steakhouse. If I remember.
It's like historic. Musso and
Yeah.
Musso and Frank.
Yes. Yeah. Musso and Franks. Yeah.
Coming to town like for the week, because the cancer medicine really took away his appetite. So that week he came in town and he didn't take any of his medications because he wanted to be able to eat. When you can't eat, you kind of take that shit for granted. Or when you can eat, rather, you take it for granted. And then when you can't, I mean, I had to do wrestling, so I kind of know what it's like. But I mean, he was sick, so he couldn't eat. Or the medicine made him not want to. So that was a big reason he came into town. Was like, I just want to fucking eat for a week and see some old friends. And so it was cool to have him on. But, a year and a half later, which, God, these days go so fast. And now he's gone.
And that's, but that's, I'll put the links to the podcast below as well. That's actually, if you guys go back, episode 65. But, and did you guys originally meet? Just, had you featured for him, in Tulsa randomly, or do you remember the first time that you guys had met?
I do. I had heard of him. I've been doing comedy for, a few years, and I'd always heard stories about J.Scott Homan, how funny he was, and so, he used to drink quite a bit, so there were some funny, everyone had a J.Scott Homan story. So I was always like, I want to meet that guy. And then I finally got to feature for him, and we did. You know what? You asked me what my worst gig was. That was one of them. We had a 750-seat theater. This guy was trying to bring R-rated comedy to Branson. And the most we had in any show in a 750-seat theater was 17 people. And they're all spread out. And we had like 4 shows doing this. And it was like someone kicking in the balls. That was one of the only shows I didn't do my time. I was supposed to do 30, and I think I did like 18, and it was just so brutal, and I hadn't been doing it long enough to just take it like that. But J.Scott did. He would stand up there for a fucking hour, and they also had this big jumbotron. So he's got this. J.Scott's kind of a big face and a big head anyway. So on this jumbotron, he was like sweating, and he's got these big hands, and he'd rub it across his face, and be like, yeah, brutal. It was so bad. And the shows weren't till 10 o'clock at night, So we had all fucking day, you know, we ran out of pot. We drove all the way back to my house, which was 3 hours each way just to get a bag of weed from my roommate.
That's how boring Branson is right there.
And during the summer especially, when there was, or no, during the winter, whenever it was shut down.
Oh yeah. There's no one. That's a ghost town.
Yeah.
Great idea for a show.
Even the hotel like opened up for us. They like just opened up 2 rooms in the hotel. Like there was no room service or maid service or any of that shit. So we drove 3 hours each way to get a bag of weed, and I don't think I've ever laughed harder in 6 hours in my life, you know. And he's one of those guys that I would be like reciting his bits to him, you know, and he'd be like, he didn't remember them, you know. And I, dude, why don't you do this bit? And I'd do the whole thing verbatim, and he'd be like, yeah, that was a good one, you know.
You're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Hadn't done that one in a little while.
Yeah, he was a special person. He was a different breed of cat for sure.
Now, in hanging out, like when you were younger, like did he offer up any advice, or did you take anything from that experience?
Just I think I learned from him how to just stand there and take it if you don't have a choice, you know. Sometimes you're just in a bad situation and you have to do your time anyway. You just have to stand there and take it and do what you're paid to do and what you're, you know. So I learned that from him. He also, in a way, he's kind of the reason I stopped drinking. Not the reason, but he's a prime example of someone who, he kind of derailed his career a little bit because of drinking. And I watched somebody that funny. You know, like I featured for him. The last time we worked together was at the Tempe Improv. And he'd be fine the first show. And then the second show, he'd be too drunk. And he would pause for like a full minute on stage. And you know how long that is on stage. I mean, a full minute. And I'd be in the back just like, say something, J.Scott. Say something, buddy, you know. And then people would walk out on him and they'd be like, oh, you're so much better than the headliner. And I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I appreciate what you think you're talking about, what you think you're saying, but you don't know what you're talking about. So seeing someone that funny and that good at what he did kind of screw it up a little bit for himself, made me realize, like, it can happen to anyone. And I was definitely, you know, I haven't drank in 9 years, but I used to be able to put this shit away, and I did a lot of dumb shit and all that. So anyway, so in a roundabout way, he was kind of one of the people that I looked at and I was like, you know, this shit'll get you, man. You know, and so
you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
And it's weird that you said the 9 years, because I remember that weekend it was at Stanford and Sons out by the racetrack in Kansas City, and I don't know if I was featuring for you or had a guest spot, but I remember you had, all my friends were there, and you're like, I haven't had a drink in, I don't know if it was 10 days or 2 weeks, but it was right at that very beginning of that, and that's incredible to think that's been 9 years have gone by, and just how much healthier you are now.
Yeah, it was 30 days. I remember that because when I quit, I tried to quit in Orlando. I was featuring for somebody, and I had like a panic attack on stage. Like I decided I wasn't going to drink that night, and I didn't realize how many sets in a row I had done with a couple drinks in me. So that night I went to the club, and I went up first show completely sober, and I had a good set, but like around 15 minutes into it, like my heart started beating real fast, and all of a sudden I got like, it felt like everyone was just like, I mean, obviously they're looking at you because you're on stage, but it felt, I was dying inside. I mean, my heart was, I thought I was gonna have to walk off stage, but it went away, and I got through the set, and it was fine. But I headed straight for the bar, and
you're like,
and then I played. I was like, I'm gonna be off for 3 weeks. I'm not gonna do any shows anywhere. I'm just gonna dry the fuck out. And so I remember that week because it was the first time I had like headlined a real show, and it was right at around 30 days of being completely sober, which I quit everything. I quit smoking weed and drinking and all that. So it was the first time I had been sober for 30 days without being in jail, which is another story. But it was the longest day. So I remember that weekend, and I remember feeling like really sharp and like good. you know, not scared or nervous or any of that shit. And that's when I realized, like, yeah, a lot of your anxiety was probably brought on by weed and alcohol, you know. And I thought it was helping me, and really it was just fucking killing me.
No,
you know?
yeah, it was
So,
like it was shielding you from some, but then also shielding the greatness at the same time from the inside. And I don't know if you were.
yeah,
I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the hailstorm that came through when you were on stage? And so Tim's on stage, and all of a sudden you just hear like a tink, 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 tink. Well, the club's roof was tin or steel or something, and a hailstorm had blown through and was just dropping. It just sounded like, well, throwing 5 pounds of marbles into a dryer was like, that's about, it was like the most distracting, like worst interruption you could ever imagine happening during a comedy show. But you plowed through it.
yeah, I vaguely remember that now, but I don't remember how to respond to it or anything.
It was great, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you giving us some of your time here. You can follow Tim at Tim Gaither, and that is just at Tim Gaither on Instagram, correct? Yes. Okay.
Right.
TimGaitherComedy.com. And depending on when you're watching this, you know, if it's in the spring of 2020, go see Tim this summer. And if it's maybe in the fall of 2020, Tim might be in your city very soon. So go check that out. But thanks again.
Above everything else right now, go to my
Yes.
youtube.com/Tim and subscribe and all that shit and help me get that
The
going.
link's
That would
right
be
below
great.
this video. It's right there. I'm going to put it very top. So,
Okay.
hey, man.
Cool.
Hey, well, thanks
Thanks, Tim.
again. Stay happy, stay healthy, and yeah, we'll talk soon, all right?
All right,
All right,
buddy. Take
peace.
care. See you soon. Bye.